Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're joining us, because we are diving into an absolutely fascinating story today. We're tracking the evolutionary journey of the UJM, the Universal Japanese Motorcycle. We'll trace its roots from a totally disruptive origin story back in the late 60s, all the way to its modern-day split personality, where classic heritage literally goes head-to-head with cutting-edge tech. It's a tale of engineering, aesthetics, and, well, the ultimate illusion of choice. Honestly, that exact mechanical DNA we're talking about today might just be sitting in your garage right now. Okay, here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The motorcycle that changed everything. 2. Anatomy of the UJM. 3. The retro revival. 4. The shared mechanical DNA. And finally, number 5. Modern naked versus retro sport. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The motorcycle that changed everything. So, here's a question to kick things off. How exactly did just 4 manufacturers manage to conquer the entire global motorcycle market? It's kind of wild to think about. Before this era, British and American bikes basically owned the roads, but then the big 4 Japanese makers, Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha, arrived and just completely flipped the script on everyone. It was literally a rapid-fire release of superior machines. In 1969, Honda drops the CB750, using tech straight from Grand Prix racing. It's faster, it's incredibly reliable, better equipped, and, the real kicker, it was way cheaper than the competition. Then Kawasaki answers with the Z1 in 1972, Suzuki jumps in with the GS750 in 1976, and Yamaha follows up with the XS11 in 1978. These bikes didn't just change the game, they completely revolutionized the global industry. 90%. Think about that number for a second. By 1979, Harley-Davidson's big bike sales plummeted by a staggering 90%. That is not just normal competition, folks. That is an absolute market invasion. The established brands were just caught completely off guard by the sheer, almost absurd level of quality and affordability these Japanese machines were bringing to the table. Section 2. Anatomy of the UJM. Now, the actual term Universal Japanese Motorcycle, or UJM, was coined back in the mid-1970s by Cycle magazine. They used it to describe this massive proliferation of very similar standard Japanese motorcycles that flooded the market right after the Honda CB750 came out. Honda basically built a rough template, and suddenly everybody else was essentially copying it. And they really did all follow a very specific blueprint. You had a 4-cylinder air-cooled engine, a nice upright standard riding position, a carburetor for every single cylinder, a front disc brake to actually safely stop all that new power, a conventional tubular cradle frame, and what's called a unit construction engine. That just means the engine and the gearbox are merged together into one solid, reliable case. This formula created this incredible homogeneity of form, function, and really high quality across all the big 4. Actually, I absolutely love this quote from Cycle magazine from 1976 because it really hits the nail on the head. They said the UJM was conceived in sameness, executed with precision, and produced by the thousands. And yeah, they were totally imitations of each other. But the thing is, they weren't cheap knockoffs at all. They were revered for their precision, their reliability, and their accessible excellence. Literally, anyone could jump on a UJM and have a fantastic, trouble-free ride. Section 3, the retro revival. Now, fast forward a bit. By the 1980s and 90s, the market totally segments. Suddenly, riders wanted highly specialized bikes. You had wild neon sport bikes with full fairings, massive heavy touring cruisers, dedicated dirt bikes, and the standard UJM kind of faded into the background. But everything comes back in style, right? Recently, we've seen a massive revival. Modern riders are once again craving that simplified, standard, do-it-all naked motorcycle. They basically want the modern equivalent of that original, perfect UJM philosophy. Section 4. The shared mechanical DNA. Which brings us to our prime example for today, the 2023 Kawasaki Z650. This right here is exactly how that versatile, standard UJM philosophy lives on right now. It's lightweight, super easy to handle, and has that classic, comfortable general-purpose riding position. Let's ground this in some actual mechanical reality for a second. If we pull the numbers straight from the Kawasaki service manual, we get the core specs. It's powered by a 649cc, 4-stroke, dual overhead cam, 2-cylinder engine. It pushes out about 68 horsepower, which, let me tell you, is plenty of punch for highway passing and spirited weekend rides. And all of this is packed into a bike weighing roughly 184 to 190 kilograms. It's just a remarkably solid, fantastic street sport engine. But here is what's truly amazing about modern engineering. Manufacturers today have figured out how to build one absolutely rock-solid mechanical core, like an incredibly reliable engine block and frame. And then they just use that exact same core across completely different styles of motorcycles. And that brings us to the modern illusion of choice. Say you walk into a dealership today. You could buy the hypermodern Kawasaki Z650, or you could go for its super vintage-looking sibling, the Z650 RS. But guess what? Beneath the plastic and the paint, the mechanics are 100% identical. The frame, the engine block, even the exhaust routing, exactly the same. You are buying the exact same beating heart.
Section 5. Modern Naked versus Retro Sport.
But man, look at the sheer contrast in the features between these two packages. The standard Z650 is absolutely packed with modern tech. You get a full-color TFT display, Bluetooth smartphone connectivity through Kawasaki's app, Kawasaki traction control, full LED turn signals, and a 15-liter fuel tank. But then, look at the Z650 RS Retro Sport. To capture that classic 70s look, you make some serious sacrifices. You lose the Bluetooth, you give up the traction control, the tank drops down to 12 liters, and you literally trade those bright LEDs for classic incandescent turn signals and old-school analog gauges.
But listen, that trade-off is all about the vibe. The RS just oozes character. You get those gorgeous model-exclusive gold wheels, if you go for the green paint job anyway. You get that beautiful 12-liter retro teardrop tank, round analog displays that are just pure nostalgia, and that iconic, classic duckbill tail section straight out of the 1970s.
And here is the craziest part. Despite looking like they were built decades apart, both of these bikes ride on the exact same high-quality Dunlop SportMax Road Sport 2 tires. They share the exact same wheelbase and a virtually identical seating geometry. So on dry pavement, the handling, the weight, the power delivery, it's all practically identical. It completely grounds your buying choice purely in aesthetics and tech features, rather than actual performance. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, the original concept of the universal motorcycle has evolved just perfectly for the modern era. The UJM formula today is brilliantly simple. Manufacturers build one highly reliable, versatile, and accessible mechanical core, and then they just wrap it in whatever aesthetic identity fits your personality best. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. Imagine you are standing in the dealership right now. You know the mechanics underneath are completely identical. So, does your head win out and choose the modern technology and safety features? Or does your heart take over and choose the vintage heritage and classic styling? It is an incredibly fun choice to have. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this sparked your curiosity, and I absolutely can't wait to dive into our next topic with you.